I've been digging deep, reading tons of newspaper, magazine and online reviews to find out what people thought about sitcoms from way back when television first started right up to today. I've even looked at lists of the worst rated sitcoms to see which ones really bombed. In this video series I'm counting down the 15 shows that critics and viewers seem to agree were the biggest flops. In this video we'll look at numbers 6 to 4.
Number 6.
Let's start with a workplace sitcom that isn't an office or a shop. The BBC's Eyes Down is set in the Rio Bingo Hall in Liverpool. The series was written by Liverpudlian actress Angela Clark, and it was the only time she wrote for television. While her script seems to be inspired by Victoria Wood and Peter Kay, reviewers felt the characters suffered from being a bit one-dimensional. It stars Paul O'Grady as Ray Temple, the manager of the bingo hall. Paul is likely to be more recognisable to some viewers as his acid-tongued alter ego Lily Savage, a drag character he developed over a period of about 10 years. He left his job to focus on his career in drag in the mid-1980s. He retired Lily in 2001. Having spent years performing in bars and touring with his drag act, Paul was used to being able to ad-lib and was very adept at putting down hecklers. He was excellent at engaging with his audiences and hosted The Big Breakfast on Channel 4, Blankety Blank for the BBC, and had his own show, Lily Live, on ITV. He was not so used to sticking to a script, so in Lily Live, if he went off on an ad-lib tangent, the recording had to be paused while the director reviewed the tape to see where they could edit and get back on track. Meanwhile, he would entertain the audience, often making jokes at the expense of the crew. His difficulty sticking to a script caused issues on Eyes Down, especially when filming on location with a single camera, when he was required to repeat a scene so the camera could shoot from another angle. Having to repeat a carbon copy of his performance stressed Paul so much, on one occasion he even walked off the set. While it wasn't a spectacular success or flop, it was actually found to be one of the worst programmes of all time by a research team commissioned by digital TV channel UK TV Gold to study 20 years of British sitcoms. However, the scoring system employed by the group of scientists led by Dr. Helen Pilcher was dubious and rather arbitrary. Despite this, it did give some of the highest scores to undoubtedly popular shows like Fawlty Towers and Only Fools and Horses. Eyes Down scored 96 out of 1,120, putting it in 5th from last place. The traditional media were fairly quiet as far as reviews of the show were concerned. Rupert Smith in The Guardian said, "The talented cast seemed frustrated by their material. Eyes Down could develop into something rich and strange, and there were moments of bleak humour to suggest it will, but at the moment it's too obviously feeling its way." A viewer on IMDb said, "Eyes Down is a cheesy British comedy set in a bingo hall with predictable jokes and tired acting. If you didn't have Paul O'Grady starring in it, it would be more of a family drama." From the Custard TV website and podcast, Luke Knowles said, "Eyes Down has all the subtlety and originality of a brick, and an obvious derivative brick at that. The bingo club setting is pure Peter Kay, but with none of the real Phoenix Nights bite." He continued, "Writer Angela Clark probably thought that getting Paul O'Grady for her first sitcom was a huge advantage. In fact, it's the opposite. This should have gone out quietly on BBC Three as a first attempt show, but instead O'Grady's status propelled it straight to terrestrial primetime, where it simply doesn't belong." Paul O'Grady was without doubt among the sharpest stand-up comedians of the past 20 years and a star in the variety tradition. He had a natural, if somewhat post-watershed wit. Paul O'Grady died unexpectedly but peacefully at his home in Kent on the 28th of March 2023, aged 67, from sudden cardiac arrhythmia.
Number 5.
Sam's Game was an ITV sitcom starring television presenter Davina McCall and comedian Ed Byrne, who played the parts of best friends and flatmates. More of their friends occupy other flats in the building. Davina is best known as television presenter, especially for Big Brother. This seems to be Davina's only sitcom appearance. She was in a few episodes of the Lee Francis Bo Selector comedy show and has made occasional cameos in other shows, often as herself or a fictionalised version of herself. Ed Byrne had previously been in a couple of sitcom roles, but most of his television appearances have been in his stand-up show and as a guest on shows like Mock the Week and QI. Probably not too surprisingly, most of the episodes centre around the love lives of the characters that become increasingly complicated. The Guardian reported that the first episode on the 13th of May 2001 had a shaky start with 5.5 million viewers, an audience share of 25%, compared to the BBC One drama Clocking Off in the same time slot that had 6.5 million viewers and a 30% audience share. In reality, although it was considered low, 5.5 million viewers is a decent number for a first showing of a new series. This was better than Davina's BBC chat show that averaged 2.65 million viewers, but that only lasted one series in 2006. Sam's Game was widely panned by critics. The Metro included the show in their list of 10 sitcoms even worse than The Right Way. Carolyn Westbrook said it was a tragically unfunny affair, a bit like a British version of Friends basically, only without Jennifer Aniston, or any laughs. Digital Spy put the show at number 2 in their list of 11 of the worst sitcoms of all time. The Evening Standard reporter said, "It sounds like a script that has been gathering dust since it was written by a work-experienced student in the comedy department in about 1979. The Daily Mail said, "It says a lot about the state of TV comedy today when a joke about someone being sick in the cutlery drawer is considered to be so hilarious it's thrown up a number of times." In his book The Radio Times Guide to TV Comedy, Mark Lewison described the show as having good moments, competent acting and refreshingly steering clear of the vulgarity associated with contemporary flatshare sitcoms. In 2005, Dr. Helen Pilcher used her semi-scientific process to rank Sam's Game. It scored 22 out of 1,120, putting it third from last position of all British sitcoms. TV Tropes said the show was a parade of trite cliches about young single people, playing on McCall's success as the presenter of a popular dating show called Streetmate. Unlike Streetmate, Sam's Game flopped with both critics and the public and was swiftly canned after one series. Despite the press negativity, Davina McCall was nominated in the 2001 National Television Awards for Most Popular Comedy Performer against Richard Wilson for One Foot in the Grave and Ricky Tomlinson for The Royal Family, who was the winner of the category. The National Television Awards Factual Entertainment category in 2001 was won by Big Brother, for which Davina was a presenter. Sam's Game ultimately turned out to be another misfire with viewers, remaining a one-series curiosity, but at least ITV showed all 6 of the episodes. The show hasn't been released on DVD.
Number 4.
Horrible was co-written by and starred Johnny Vaughan as Paul Clark, a fast-talking minicab driver and cocky small-time crook who likes to think of himself as a criminal mastermind. 8 episodes were broadcast from September to October 2001. The series was Johnny Vaughan's first and only attempt at a television sitcom, having made his name as a presenter of the Channel 4 breakfast show The Big Breakfast from 1997 until 2001. You might have thought that coping with a live television environment would have prepared Vaughan for his appearance in a sitcom, but they're two entirely different disciplines. No one seems to have told him that. In the Big Breakfast studio, mostly handheld cameras were used to catch the sometimes chaotic action. In the studio for a sitcom, the cameras are much larger and are on wheeled dollies, so actors need to be in the right place for the faces to be seen. We spend a lot of time looking at the back of Vaughan's head. The sitcom plus a chat show were part of a contract with the BBC worth a reported £3 million. Despite the BBC being confident and heavily promoting Horrible, it was panned by critics for the script and Vaughan's acting ability. Horrible achieved very low viewing figures. Even Vaughan wasn't satisfied, later saying about it, "Ultimately, it was shit." The Metro included the show in their list of 10 sitcoms even worse than The Right Way. Carolyn Westbrook said she blamed Vaughan's comic timing and acting abilities, or lack of. Digital Spy put Horrible at number 3 in their list of 11 of the worst sitcoms of all time. They said that Vaughan's character makes Danny Dyer look like Kenneth Branagh. Dr. Helen Pilcher calculated the score for Horrible, which came out last, with a score of 6.5 out of 1,120. Viewer Marcus Pearman commented, "The majority of people say that this series is unfunny. They're wrong. Unfunny is the lack of amusement. This production is actually anti-funny, i.e. the opposite of funny. As well as being ineptly written and acted, it is incompetent in every imaginable area, direction, production values and so on. If you haven't seen this tripe, count yourself lucky." The BBC's reviewer William Gallagher put his finger on the problem with the programme. Gallagher says there is a general lack of thought in it, as if Vaughan and co-writer Ed Allen have made notes for the story rather than getting around to finishing the script. To illustrate this, he points to the title of the show, which is supposed to be the nickname of Vaughan's character. It comes as quite a surprise, as the episode goes to lengths to underline that his name is Paul Clark, and reportedly there is no point in the whole 8-part series that he gets called Horrible, or we get an explanation. How do we know Paul Clark is horrible? It is only when you notice the end credits listing someone as double for horrible that you realise this is supposed to be the lead character's name. It also feels like a good summary of what is wrong with the show. The show did not return for a second run. Horrible was released on Region 2 and 4 DVD in January 2003. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, or maybe you're glad you missed these shows. So you're thinking, if Dr. Helen Pilcher gave Eyes Down the 5th worst score, and if Digital Spy could put Sam's Game at number 2 on its list of the 11 worst sitcoms of all time, and it had the 3rd from lowest Pilcher score, and if Digital Spy could put Horrible at number 3 of its list of 11 of the worst sitcoms of all time, it had the lowest Pilcher score, and even Johnny Vaughan seemed to hate his own show, then how could there be 3 more shows that are even worse? All I can say is thank yourself lucky that you can't imagine anything worse, but you can find out in the next video. If you've any other sitcoms you'd like to add to this list of shame, or if you think I've been too harsh on any of these shows, feel free to leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other videos for more television sitcom stories, and join me the next time for the worst of the worst. Thanks for watching.